Welcome, everybody. It is actually my first time presenting without seeing actually the faces. So this is a new experience for me, and I hope I will be able to cater to your needs, even though I don't see your reactions. So I'll be looking for comments and questions and whatever you might want to express during this presentation. So what I am going to talk about today is about growing Agile professionals to actually be professionals. So we will take a look at Scrum Masters, we will take a look at Agile coaches, we'll take a look at certain misunderstanding, certain tweaks to the role that organization did, and how to try to break the cycle, and I'll show you what the cycle is, to actually develop real, very good, very high quality Scrum Masters and basically Agile professionals. So let me introduce you to a person, actually. Meet Mike. He wants to be a Scrum Master. Mike is a people person. It's someone that really likes working with people, enjoys it, and he knows how to do it. So he's got that natural vibe to making sure that people are happy, that people are catered to, and he has that natural also quality of asking strong questions. So he's asking questions that actually make you think twice. It's not something that you would just, the question, yeah, just like that. No, he's asking actually strong questions that make you think, make you reflect on yourself. He understands that values are a basis of culture. So he knows how the groups of people or how organizations are being created. He's really good at creating a network of contacts, a network of relationships. So he can quickly move around a new company or a new environment. He's also in all of this very empathetic, so he's able to kind of to work one-on-one. He's liked around. So it appears as if he has lots of qualities that would make a pretty good Scrum Master. So he goes to his friend, Kevin. And but Kevin's a little skeptical and said, you've chosen poor time for that, mate. The coronavirus crisis created an opportunity for very experienced people, but if you want to start in this moment, it might not be the best moment to actually do so. So, but Mike is quite determined. I still want to try. So let's think about for a moment where he could try. He could either try to send out tons of CVs, but without experience, it's actually hard to do that. But there is still one place where we might be able to start, especially in all the crisis cases. Try corporate. Corporate Scrum Masters, or actually, let's not jump into that yet. We will. Who corporate Scrum Masters generally are. Of course, I will be generalizing here. So it's not that other types of companies or other types of Scrum Masters don't exist. It's just that this is actually the majority of what I have been observing so far. So he did try corporate. After several interviews, very classic interviews, he has actually landed a job. His first job as a Scrum Master. He was very, very, very happy. He has already learned a lot. So he was able to teach himself lots of techniques. He read through pretty good books, like, for example, what could we say? Where is the book? Oh, here it is. I put it in a separate place so that I don't forget about it. Like this one. Because he learned from it that he should support a product owner, maybe this one would also be a good book. And there are other really good books where he learned a lot from techniques, who to support, how to talk with people, what roles are supposed to do. So let's take a look at that. You might know this chart. This chart has been created by Gunther Verheyen. He was also a guest here at ABE. I don't think once, I think he was here multiple times. Anyway, he's a great guy. So if you ever encounter him, his presentation, just go ahead. He just doesn't fail. So he created this kind of the Scrum Master advancement or Scrum Master levels chart, where he shows how good of a Scrum Master might be, or how agile, or actually how efficient in creating environment and in making sure that the right thing is created, actually the right product is created. So at the first level, we have the teaching techniques. So this is exactly where Mike is at right now. He will be teaching techniques. So this is a beginner Scrum Master, someone who knows the mechanics, someone who knows the tools, because this is actually easy to learn them from books. But you definitely need more experience to be able to advance further. So yeah, he started his job in a corporate environment. So his manager gave him some study materials, some self-study materials for a Scrum Master. Let's take a look at those self-study materials. This is actually a self-study material from it when I asked Uncle Google to tell me whether who is a Scrum Master. This is, I believe, the third result. So a very likely source for knowledge about Scrum Mastery for somebody that's just starting as a Scrum Master, especially in the corporate environment. So let's take a deeper dive. What do we have here? We have a Scrum Master, and we learn that Scrum Master is not involved in planning the release. Then we're learning that a Scrum Master doesn't manage. Then we're learning that a Scrum Master isn't responsible for the success of project result. Then we're learning that there is a daily stand-up meeting in Scrum. Then we're learning that there are 4 ceremonies in Scrum. Later on, we're learning that a Scrum Master is maintaining the burn down chart and sets up retrospectives, reviews, and planning sessions. He's also helping the product owner. Yes! By walking them through more technical user stories. He also ensures collaboration between the product owner and the Scrum Manager. I'll talk in abbreviations. WTF? Who's a Scrum Manager? I mean, I might not know this role. I only have 11 years of experience in the market. So maybe this is something new. So he learns this Scrum Mastery, which is, how to say it, a little crooked comparing to the correct stuff. But he manages for some time. So he gets some experience. He learns what not to do, possibly, maybe a few things, what actually to do, how to interact with people in a corporate environment, which is actually a very good experience to have by any Scrum Master. So he decides to actually change a job. This time it will be better. He's changing it to another corporation that this time has a good kind of a vibe to it. It's known for not killing agility completely, and just that people tend to have fun over there, and maybe he will be able to become a better Scrum Master. Over the course of being in the first environment, he was able to advance. He was able to advance from teaching techniques to the second level, which is embracing empiricism. So he understood the need for development. He understood the need for experimenting. He understood the need of trying and changing. Yeah? So inspection and adaptation is something that he actually understood. So he started working in another environment. He started working in another company, and he was introduced to Scrum by to the Scrum Master role that is there in the organization with a very short video. Let me show it to you in just a second.
Scrum Masters are integral parts of Agile development teams. They're responsible for managing communication between team members to keep projects on track. Scrum is a software development methodology rooted in self-organization and adaptability, in line with Agile principles. The term Scrum is borrowed from rugby, referring to when opposing teams huddle together to restart gameplay. Like rugby players, project development teams huddle together at the start of each day in a scrum, led by the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master asks team members 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? And are there any impediments in your way? While the Scrum Master leads the scrums, they're not the project leader and are not singularly responsible for project outcomes. But that doesn't mean the job is easy. The Scrum Master also helps the team determine what can be achieved in a period of time, or a sprint, helps the team reach a consensus, keeps the team focused and follows up on Scrum rules, removes obstacles impeding team progress, and protects the team from outside distractions. There's even an official Scrum Master certification. The certification process includes deep dives into Scrum framework, as well as the various team rules, events, and artifacts incorporated into Agile development. Does your team use Scrum? Let us know what you think of the methodology.
Yep, that's about it. So what do you think about this introduction?
Methodology below. And
in this situation, Mike still didn't feel right. I mean, he learned a lot because this approach to Scrum Mastery at least shows a lot of things that a Scrum Master could do to help his or her team. And supporting the team of developers, supporting the team of creators is something that a Scrum Master has to know how to do. But the problem is that he's supporting only the Scrum Master. There's barely any, the development team. There's barely any interaction with the product owner, barely any support for the product owner. So since he learned a lot, but it still doesn't feel right, this time he will try a smaller company. So let's see how this goes. He was hired. He was introduced to the smaller company. The smaller companies, they tend to be more agile, naturally, because the smaller organizations, they are naturally more nimble. They have less people. They don't have such an inertia in changing their direction. So he was introduced to their approach on Scrum Mastery, and their approach on Scrum Mastery was dictated by a tool this time. So let's take a look. They were using visual paradigm, and the visual paradigm, actually, it's not bad. It's not bad. They actually took a step forward from just the team. It's the establishing environments. So it's something outside of the team. So this is a pretty good approach to Scrum Mastery. Then they have stressed that actually he's ensuring there's good relationships with the product owner and also outside of the team. So there actually is support for the product owner in there. Yeah? So this is actually where Scrum Master could have an impact on delivering value. But there's always a but. Maximizing productivity. Even though it's not very incorrect, it's not the goal. Yeah? The goal is to maximize value actually delivered by the team, not only the productivity. Then progress tracking. Burn downs, again, velocity, sorry. Quality check. I really, really hope that they meant actually establishing a definition of done and making sure that it's used. Yeah? It could be that. I hope that's behind it. So he entered up an organization where that understanding of the Scrum Mastery was a little better, and he was able to actually work with the product owner. So, and what happened? it helped him advance one level to valuable outcomes, so that he would actually concentrate on value delivered by himself, actually by the whole Scrum team that is working together. So supporting the product owner was a vital part of his work. So after some time spent in that organization, he decided to change a job or change a position once again. This time he wanted to change the organization to something that wouldn't be tool-centric. So he decided to actually try learning about organization, which one does not have kind of a tool-like approach to Scrum Mastery. So he decided to switch it again. So this organization had a little different approach to Scrum Mastery. He entered that organization and started learning. The first is team support. So first is Agile Coaching. I see I've mixed up the colors here a little bit. Sorry about that. So there actually is something more than just supporting the team and the product owner. So there actually is some Agile coaching, but on top of that Agile coaching, there are some other weird things like stand-ups in Scrum, some burnout charts in velocity, team support in settling disagreement, and coffee runs. I mean, I know that I used to tell a story where I actually got coffee for my team as a Scrum Master, but this was in a situation where all the coffee machines have been pulled from the building because of the money issues, and the team wasn't even aware that this is going to happen. So yeah, I did get coffee for my teams, but this was once, actually, sorry, twice. Yeah, I got my team's coffee twice, and once I got a pizza. Then there's another thing that is a little shady. Jira administration. He wanted to get away from tooling, and he got himself into Jira administration. And last but not least, superhero time remove blockers. Let me speak in abbreviations again. WTF? I have no idea what this means. You know, this Jira administration element in there is actually something that might be explained by the fact that this slide actually comes from Atlassian Agile Coach. So this is how Jira administrators understand who a Scrum Master is. Unfortunately, getting into an organization that understands Scrum Master like this, even though it's not tool-centric, so they might not be using Jira, but if they are understanding the Scrum Master on this level, there's no way that Mike could advance from this level. Now, he cannot advance to the values and principles. So what's wrong? He could change organizations, but why is it that he's unable to advance past that third level? So he would love to be on values and principles or invisibly present. He wants to be that real master. He cannot. So let's take a closer look at what happened there. And this is needed for understanding of how the Scrum Masters could advance and develop. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. This is a pretty well-known picture or work of art. It's pretty old, and it's depicting something called the Platos Cave. The Platos Cave is an allegory that has been created by the philosopher Plato that shows that theoretically there could be people living in a cave. I know that, you know, vitamin D and so on. Let's not jump in there. Let's assume that there could be people living in a cave. And they are chained in place so that they could only see the shadows on the wall of what's happening behind them. So they cannot turn around. They cannot see what is actually causing those shadows. And this is the only thing they know, the only thing they understand. There are people who have broken those chains and actually moved behind it and see, and they're actually casting those shadows. So in fact, the majority of people is seeing shadows, then there are people who are casting those shadows. There are also people who actually left the cave and are able to see what happens in the real world. And the Platos Cave shows that if we are in a certain situation, because these people that are chained, they don't want to break their chains because this is the only reality they know. And the problem with the Scrum Mastery is that this is the Plato's Cave, because we have the Scrum Masters that are being understood as overpaid secretaries. And because they're being understood as overpaid secretaries, then this is what's expected of them. So nobody actually looks at a broader picture. So there are no people going behind the wall to break the chain to actually start casting shadows. So if we are in such a situation, so how to break this vicious cycle? It is vicious, right? It's something that, you know, because you are understood as being the team nanny, then you're creating a need for team nannies. And if you and then organizations, because they hear they need Scrum Masters, they need team nannies, and oh, it's hard, but it is possible to do so. It's a matter of breaking up yourself. So first is understanding who a Scrum Master really is. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to do a very bad thing, because I will show you a screenshot from the Scrum Guide. You should know it, by the way, especially if you're a Scrum Master and if you're or if you're an Agile coach or any other Agile professional. But I know that knowledge actually, or familiarity with the Scrum Guide, especially in corporate situations, is not that high. I remember when I first illustrated the Scrum Guide, I had multiple Scrum Masters come to me and, oh my God, this is so good that you illustrated that Scrum Guide. I've read it for the first time in whole. They have been Scrum Master for like 2 years or something. And this was the first moment they actually read the Scrum Guide. So I'm not really surprised that there are companies that are still rooted in the Scrum of 2010 or 2012, which is significantly different from what it is right now. So let's take a closer look. Who actually is a proper Scrum Master? Who actually is a professional Scrum Master? A Scrum Master is someone who is helping understand. And this is actually quite crucial. Theory, practices, rules, and values. If he is helping people understand, he has to understand it in the first place. One. Second, servant leader for Scrum team. Servant leadership is a discipline that is based on practices that is coming from coaching, that is coming from mentoring, that is coming from supporting people without having physical formal power over them. Scrum Master helps. So that help is very, very important. Helps also change interaction outside of the team. So as you can see, he's working on understanding, he's a leader, and he's helping outside of the team and inside of the team kind of understand each other. Yeah? So he needs to understand all of those needs, all of those processes, whatever's coming from the people who are surrounding the development team and actually the whole Scrum team. So a little deeper dive. As you probably know, the Scrum Master has service to the product owner, to the development team, and to the organization. So again, those are three things that organizations tend to forget about. They only give the Scrum Master the role of actually working with the development team. And working with the development team, not on the level Scrum Master is supposed to work with it. What level is Scrum Master supposed to work with the development team? He's supposed to be coaching it. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. But he is helping them to create high value products. So he has to be aware of what the value is. He is helping the team create the team in the organizational environment, especially where the Scrum is not understood yet. So he's creating an environment for the team, not necessarily being their nanny. You know, very immature teams, maybe something like that, but for a very short period of time. He's facilitating Scrum events, but watch out, as requested or needed. So he's not facilitating every single event. So he's not setting up every single event. It's not his job. So that's how he's servicing the development team. So another product owner, he is ensuring goals, scope, product domain are understood. So he has to understand goals, scope, and product domain. If he ensures that they are understood, he's finding techniques. Yeah, definitely. For the product owner, not for running the retrospective, for the product owner. Pruning the product tree, got it. Business model canvas, great. I can facilitate that. Yeah, this is the role of the Scrum Master. Facilitating Scrum events as requested or needed, again. And then there's the third most crucial role, but the most omitted, which is the service to the organization. Leading and coaching the organization, the whole organization. This is way bigger than just working with a team. Planning Scrum implementations. This is transformation. This is actually physically transforming the organization, causing change. Again, transformation. This is what Scrum Master is supposed to do, working with other Scrum Masters, so creating a chain. On top, and increase effectiveness of application of Scrum. This is all transformation. Yeah, with other Scrum Masters, and everything sprinkled generously with tons and tons of understanding. So, looking at that, who a Scrum Master is supposed to be, and who we perceive, or actually who organizations perceive the Scrum Master to be, what the heck happened? And it all actually happened a long time ago. So let me give you a little background. When Scrum came to be, at first, 1995, for some time it was, you know, just a fling, but then it started being bigger because organizations, companies, managers realized that actually organizations that had Scrum Masters were more productive. And I'm deliberately saying more productive. And that productivity then, 15, 20 years ago, was something that was sought after. Not many people actually thought about building the right thing, maybe Toyota and a few more companies, but generally the productivity was sought after. So this is actually how Scrum and all other methods of working were marketed. So if the Scrum Masters started being sought after because they brought productivity, there was high demand for it. So high demand for Scrum Masters created supply. So what happened is that not only the high quality Scrum Masters have been employed in company, but also low quality Scrum Masters. So the ones that just started were just able to teach techniques. They were kind of they were shortened to only working with teams. And because Scrum Masters stopped giving the advantage to the companies, then they stopped being that sought after. So there was a high group of Scrum Masters, So after some time, there were Scrum Masters that learned a lot because they were in the right environment. So they were able to learn a lot. So suddenly those Scrum Masters, and by the way, the name Scrum Master could have been burned kind of in certain organizations that didn't want to use it anymore. So the Scrum Masters started renaming themselves to Agile Coaches. So we had Agile Coaches that were in fact experienced Scrum Masters. Those Agile Coaches started creating those Agile Coaches started creating demand for themselves, so there were more Agile Coaches on the market, and so on and so on. So what we're looking at now is there are Scrum Masters, there are Agile Coaches, but as you might notice, the organizations that are trying to change themselves, they are not looking for that many Agile Coaches or that many Scrum Masters, unless they understand what it is all about. But they're looking for transformation managers, transformation leaders, transformation coaches, because again, Agile has been burnt a little, in the environment. But looking at who an Agile coach and a Scrum Master is, in fact, it's the same person. Competency-wise. So if we're talking about a very experienced Scrum Master, that he or she would make an Agile coach. And this is how it is generally perceived in the market. So if they are the same, so where's the difference? Again, in perception. So Agile coaches tend to be kind of on a higher level than Scrum Masters. Maybe they don't have their own teams. Maybe they're working with the organizational leaders rather than teams. Something like this. Yeah? But competency-wise, an experienced Agile coach and an experienced Scrum Master, still the same. So let's take a look at one more effect that is there on the market. So we'll start with how many Scrum Masters and how many Agile coaches we have. There's usually the Scrum Masters are more senior than Agile coaches, and sometimes the Agile coaches are managing Scrum Masters. Yeah, so Scrum Masters are directly with the teams, and then the Agile coaches are managing groups of Scrum Masters. So in the United States, there is 343,000 Scrum Masters and about 97,000 Agile coaches. So that's 3.5 times the number. So actually, this is quite even, taking into consideration that Scrum constitutes of 55% of agility altogether in the world, based on the latest chaos report. So let's take a look a little bit closer. The Netherlands. Sorry, wrong flag. The Netherlands. Here we have 59,000 Scrum Masters and 16,000 Agile coaches. This is a little, it's teeny tiny bit smaller than the United States. And this has a ratio of 3.7. Then we have Germany. And in Germany, we have 68,000 Scrum Master and 13,000 Agile coaches. This is 5 times. Germans are efficient. An Agile coach can manage 5 Scrum Masters, right? They're German. But let's take a look at the odd one. Poland. Poland has 33,000 Scrum Masters and 2,300 Agile coaches, which means there's 14.5 times more Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. What the heck? Are we that efficient? No, sorry, I don't believe that. We're not. Sorry, Germans are way better at that than us. Let me speak in abbreviations again. WTF. So I started digging deeper into what happened here, and I noticed that people are actually getting a little creative in naming their positions. So Those are positions of Agile, but without a coach, from LinkedIn that pop up a lot. Yeah, so a practitioner, a manager, consultant, owner, evangelist, lead, manager, product manager, project manager, trainer, something like this. This happens a lot. Then a little more creative things like new way in project management, risk and failure mitigation, Agile approach, Agile branding expert and creative director. This is interesting. Innovation designer, Agile and Scrum. Pretty good. There are also some really creative ones, like real Agile leader. I'm just wondering if others are like a fairy tale or something. I mean, they might be. I've met one. Maybe that's the one. I like that one. I help Agile teams perform like 96 bulls. I hope that some of you still remember that, or I'm getting really old. Michael Jordan flying in the air and actually having basketball games against some cartoon characters. Remember that, I hope. And my personal favorite, Agile minus coach produced that, a LinkedIn profile. So what could be the reason for that? A few things. First is that either we are extremely creative as a nation, and we just don't like the name Agile Coach, and we tend to come up with something new because new is better and creative is better. Or actually, agility is not welcome here. And I really hope that's the first thing. So now let's take a closer look at what a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, both of them actually, an Agile professional, has to know. And this is a chart that's based on Lisa Atkins's model, and I think she nailed it pretty well. If you look into the Scrum Guide, this is exactly what it says. So what does a Scrum Master or an Agile coach need to know? He has to be an Agile Lean practitioner. He has to be proficient in teaching and mentoring because he is supposed to teach and mentor. He has to be a professional in coaching and facilitating because this is what he does. Even though he does not facilitate every team meeting, facilitating a hard meeting with stakeholders for a product owner, yeah, this is something he or she should do. Then the ones on the bottom are specialties for the Scrum Master. So a Scrum Master could be a technical master, so someone who is especially good if it comes to technology. He could be a master at business, so that this would be the kind of a Scrum Master that is supporting their product owner, maybe an ex-product owner. And then last but not least, transformation mastery. So this has to be someone that understands how transformations are made. You don't have to be an expert at all three of those. And heck, I don't expect anybody to be an expert in all three of those. You choose one, maybe two. If you're above 50, I might consider that you are an expert in two of those. But I guess that's it. Yeah? So you don't have to be an expert in all of those, but you have to know a little bit about it. Every Scrum Master has to know a little bit about it. So I've broken this down into competencies, the ones that have been on the workshop, on the dojo. This is actually a screenshot from the dojo. There is a 99 competencies that a Scrum Master or an Agile coach should have in order to actually develop himself to understand what the real transformation, what real Scrum Mastery and Agile coaching is about. People were a little frightened with that. And on one hand, I'm sorry about that, but on the other, this is reality. A Scrum Master and an Agile coach are professionals. They have tons of competencies, to learn, to be able to be professionals at what they are doing. Some of those competencies belong to the specialties. So if you're not a technical master, you don't have to have all those technical mastery elements. If you're not a business master, then you don't have to have this business. If you don't have if you aren't a transformation master, you don't have the transformation part. But the rest, so about 50 competencies, still is something that you definitely have to have. So we have that many competencies from the groups. So how do we actually put them into practice? Exactly, it's the practice. So we learn by practicing, by making mistakes. So if we're talking about something that is going to develop you, a program that is going to help you develop, help you break the cycle of actually working only with the team, what you have to do is you have to consider that you have to put it into practice. Yeah. In practicing something, you first have to, in creating that kind of a development program, first you have to identify what you want to learn, what you want to develop yourself in. And if those competencies are going to be in line with what the organization needs and what the organization is going to do, this is perfect because they are going to allow you to develop. So possibly you are going to have a better budget. Yeah? Learning by experience. If you're interested, just two little sources. You can read about Kolb cycle, so cycle for learning, or you can learn about Honey and Mumford's styles of learning. This is something that might help you in actually understanding how experience, how theory and practice is going together in helping you learn, and maybe uncovering what you personally need. And then you will be able to create a set of elements that could help you grow. So let's take a look at the ingredients of a good development program. So,
Kasho, I just want to let you know that we have about 6 minutes until the end of this slot. So just so you know, so you can manage your time well. Okay. And I think if we don't get to ask any questions, this is also fine. But if we manage to get 1 or 2 questions, that's also perfect. So
okay, so let me storm through, and I'll go through it fast. So basically, if you would like to create a good development program for Scrum Masters, make sure that to involve themselves in creating it. So involve yourself if you are a Scrum Master, involve your Scrum Masters if you're an HR professional or a manager that is managing a budget. And I just wanted to show you that you can create a development program without any money, because there are actually ingredients that are costless. So the costless ingredients for creating a development program, an example of costless ingredients, are self-study, simple as that. So you're looking for podcasts and publications. You can use communities of practice, and there's this beautiful thing that just happened during the pandemic, that all of the communities are available for you at the moment. So you can join any of them because they're all online. Even if there's something happening physically, there's so little of them that I don't think you have to worry about that. There are also cross-company communities also happening online. There's pair working with your peers, where you can you can do a Scrum Masters version of pair programming. You can go to any type of online events that are free. There's tons of them. So you could actually construct something where you learn something and then apply it in practice. Yeah. So this is what you can do without a cost. You could also have a small budget. If you have a small budget, you could start a book club where you could actually buy books for participants to review and apply knowledge from. You can go into community conferences and camps, so the ones that are a little cheaper, but they are not as professionally organized. Then you can do something that's interesting, which is a time-boxed position exchange. So exchange with your friend on the teams, so that you could switch your teams and go some internal training. Maybe you could train each other. Then expensive ones where you actually have to have a budget are, for example, conferences and camps, commercial ones, just like this one. I'm pretty sure you're taking a lot of value from it. You can work with external experts as a case clinic. So you get, for example, an hour slot with an expert. You could have some direct feedback from an expert. You could have mentoring with an expert and attend public trainings. So I stormed through it. I wanted to do something more, but sorry, I just talked too much.
No, this is perfect. Thank you very much, Kate. I really enjoyed this presentation.